Philanthropic businessman builds school for orphans, the opening day event, is heartfelt and reveals a hidden story behind his generosity. The sun rose over Hopevale, painting the sky in warm hues of orange and pink. Excitement crackled in the air as the townsfolk bustled about, preparing for a day that promised new beginnings. It was the day of the school inauguration, a moment that held the hopes of the entire community, especially for the orphans who had waited for this opportunity. Children's laughter echoed down the streets, mingling with the chatter of adults discussing the bright future ahead. Elias Vance stood by the window of his modest home, watching the scene unfold. His heart raced with a mix of hope and trepidation. Today was not just about the school, it was about his daughter, Beatrice, who had loved learning with all her heart. Each smile he saw on the children's faces reminded him of her bright spirit, and each memory weighed heavily on his chest. "What would you think, my sweet Beatrice?" he whispered to himself, remembering her laughter and dreams. The ache of grief settled in, but Elias pushed it aside. Today was a day of redemption. "Elias!" a voice called from the entrance. It was Clara, his ex-wife, her presence like a shadow that darkened the room. As she entered, her disapproval was palpable. "Are you really going through with this?" she asked, her brow furrowed. "What if it doesn't go as planned?" Elias met her gaze, feeling the tension rise between them. "It has to go well, Clara. For them. For Beatrice." His voice was steady, though inside, doubt crept in like an unwelcome guest. Clara crossed her arms, her expression a mixture of concern and skepticism. "You think this is enough to make up for everything? These kids deserve better than half-hearted attempts." Elias clenched his jaw, but held his tongue. The weight of her words hung in the air, thick and suffocating, and he knew that her doubts were just as much about their past as they were about this moment. Outside, a group of children gathered, their faces bright with anticipation. Among them stood Lila, a 10-year-old girl whose wide eyes seemed to absorb everything around her. She had lost her parents and carried a vulnerability that tugged at Elias's heart. He noticed how she clutched her worn-out backpack, the fabric fraying at the edges as if it contained all her hopes and dreams. "Look at Lila," he thought, his heart aching. "She needs this school more than anyone." He could almost hear her silent plea. "Will you help me?" "Dad, are we ready?" one of the other children asked, breaking his reverie. Elias turned to the boy, forcing a smile. "We're ready. It's going to be a great day. You'll see." But as he spoke, his thoughts drifted back to Clara. Would she always doubt his intentions? Would the children sense the tension between them? Clara's voice interrupted his thoughts again. "You have to be honest with them, Elias. They can't handle any more disappointment." He nodded, but doubt lingered in the back of his mind. What if he failed? What if he let them down? As the hour approached for the ceremony, the atmosphere in Hopevale shifted. The streets buzzed with excitement, but within Elias, uncertainty churned. He took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. "This is for Beatrice," he reminded himself, but the memory of Clara's words haunted him. Lila caught his eye, and for a moment, everything else faded. Her hopeful smile cut through the fog of his worries, grounding him in the present. "I won't let you down," he thought, silently vowing to give her and the other children what they deserved. But as the crowd gathered, Elias could feel the weight of the day pressing down. Would he be strong enough to hold everything together? Would Clara's disapproval overshadow the joy of the moment? The sound of laughter filled the air, but underneath it all lay an unspoken tension, a reminder that new beginnings often come with old wounds. As the ceremony loomed closer, Elias knew that this was just the beginning, and the challenges ahead would test not only his resolve, but also the very fabric of Hopevale itself. As the sun rose over Hopevale, Elias Vance found himself lost in thought. The day of the school inauguration was finally here, but his heart felt heavy. He remembered Beatrice, his bright-eyed daughter who had always loved to learn. Her laughter echoed in his mind, a sweet sound that filled their home with joy. Elias closed his eyes, wishing he could turn back time and hold her again. "Dad, can I have a pet hamster?" Beatrice had asked one day, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "I promise to take care of it." Elias chuckled at the memory. "Maybe after you finish your homework," he had replied, knowing she would argue her way into getting what she wanted. But now, those moments felt so distant, like a dream that had faded away. He wanted to honor her love for education by creating a place where children could learn and grow. But memories brought pain as well. He often thought about the last time they were together. They had been in the living room, Beatrice sitting on the floor surrounded by books. "I want to be a teacher, Dad," she had said. "I want to help kids like me." Elias's heart ached at the thought. "You will, sweetheart. I believe in you." But he hadn't been able to keep that promise. Her death had left a void that he struggled to fill. As he prepared for the ceremony, doubts crept into his mind. What if he couldn't do it? What if this school didn't help the children like Beatrice had hoped? His thoughts were interrupted by the arrival of Clara, his ex-wife. The moment she stepped into the room, a chill filled the air. Clara's expression was stern, her arms crossed tightly over her chest. "Elias, are you sure this is a good idea?" she asked, her voice cutting through his memories. "It's what Beatrice would have wanted," Elias replied, trying to keep his voice steady. Clara shook her head. "You think that by opening this school, you can wash away your guilt? It's not that simple." Elias felt a wave of frustration. "I'm not trying to wash anything away. I want to create something good for these kids." "Good intentions don't always lead to good outcomes," Clara snapped, her eyes flashing with concern. "What if you fail them?" He could see the worry etched on Clara's face, and it made him question his own resolve. He didn't want to let her down, nor did he want to disappoint the children who looked up to him. He had to push through the fear and focus on the hope that this school could bring. As the ceremony time approached, the atmosphere in Hopevale shifted. Families gathered, their children excitedly chatting among themselves. Leela, the 10-year-old girl who had lost her parents, stood quietly at the edge of the crowd. Elias noticed her small frame, her eyes wide with a mix of hope and uncertainty. He felt an urge to comfort her, to tell her that everything would be all right. "Elias," Clara said, her tone softening slightly, "you need to think of the children. They deserve better than to be part of your redemption story." He sighed, looking at Lila and the other children. "I know it's not just about me, it's about them. I want to give them the chance to dream." Clara nodded, but her worry remained. "Just remember, they are fragile. Don't let your guilt cloud their futures." Elias felt the weight of her words. He turned his gaze back to Lila, who was now watching him intently. Her innocence pulled at his heart. He wanted to be a father figure for her and the others, to guide them as Beatrice would have wanted. As the hour approached, the community buzzed with anticipation, but Elias's thoughts remained clouded. Could he truly make a difference? Would the school be a shining beacon of hope, or would it crumble under the weight of his unresolved guilt? The questions loomed over him like dark clouds threatening a storm. "Just breathe," he whispered to himself, trying to steady his racing heart. The memories of Beatrice, the doubts from Clara, and the hopes of the children all swirled together in his mind. He took a deep breath, determined to move forward, no matter how heavy the burden felt. Today was about the children, and he had to find a way to honor Beatrice's memory while building a brighter future for them all. The sun shone brightly over Hopevale as the inauguration ceremony for the new school began. A crowd gathered, a mix of excitement and nervousness buzzing in the air. Elias Vance stood at the front, his heart racing. He looked out at the faces of the community, each person filled with hope for the future. With a deep breath, he stepped forward to speak. "Welcome, everyone," Elias called out, trying to keep his voice steady. "Today marks a new beginning for our children. This school is a place where they can learn, grow, and dream." He scanned the crowd, his eyes landing on Lila, the 10-year-old girl who had captured his heart. Her wide, hopeful eyes looked up at him, and he felt a surge of determination. As he introduced the teachers, he noticed Clara standing off to the side, her arms crossed tightly. The skepticism in her posture was hard to miss. "This is a wonderful day for our community," he continued, trying to ignore the tension. "Together, we will create a nurturing environment for our kids." He felt the weight of Clara's gaze, a reminder of the doubts she held about his intentions. Lila's face brightened as she listened to Elias's words. She felt a rush of emotions: hope, fear, and the pressure of expectations. She thought about what this school could mean for her and the other children. Would it really be a place where they could find joy and learning? Elias noticed her expression, and it tugged at his heart. Just then, a local reporter pushed through the crowd, a look of urgency on his face. "Excuse me, Elias," he called out, interrupting the celebration. "I have some important news." The chatter among the crowd faded as everyone turned to listen. "There are reports about the funding for this school," the reporter continued, his voice rising above the murmurs. "Sources say it might not be what you claim. Some say the money comes from controversial places." The air grew thick with tension. Elias felt his stomach drop. He had worked so hard to create this moment, and now it was under threat. Gasps erupted from the audience. Clara stepped forward, her eyes sharp. "Elias, what is he talking about?" she demanded. "Is this true?" The crowd began to buzz with confusion and anger, eyes darting between the reporter and Elias. Elias's heart raced as he tried to find the right words. I can't explain," he stammered. "The funding was meant to help our children. I thought it would give them a chance." He glanced at Lila, who now looked small and lost in the chaos. "But at what cost?" Clara interjected, her voice rising with frustration. "Do you care more about the money than the kids?" Her words cut through him, deeper than he expected. The reality of his choices began to weigh heavily on his shoulders. Elias felt trapped. He had wanted to do something good, but now it felt as if everything was crumbling around him. "I never wanted this," he said quietly, almost to himself. "I wanted to honor Beatrice's memory." "Then you need to take responsibility," Clara said firmly, her eyes locked on his. "These children deserve better than this." The crowd murmured in agreement, the anger growing. Lila, feeling the weight of the moment, stepped forward. "Mr. Vance," she said, her voice trembling, "what will happen to us? Will we still have a school?" Her question pierced through the noise, and all eyes turned to Elias. He looked at her, his heart breaking. "I will fix this, Lila, I promise," he said, though uncertainty loomed in his mind. "I will find a way to make it right." But as he spoke, doubt crept in. What if the damage was already done? What if he had let everyone down? The faces of the children around him blurred into a mix of hope and fear, and he realized how much he had to lose. Elias took a deep breath, determined to regain control. "I will not let this school fail. I will cancel the funding if it harms our children," he declared, trying to calm the storm within him. "I want to build a place that is truly for them." The crowd fell silent, the weight of his words hanging in the air. Clara's expression softened slightly, but the tension remained. Lila nodded, her eyes glistening with hope once more. Elias felt a flicker of resolve ignite within him. He would find a way, for the sake of the children and for his own redemption. The mood in Hopevale shifted dramatically after the shocking news about the school's funding spread through the crowd. Community members began to murmur, their faces tight with anger and disappointment. Elias Vance stood at the center of the chaos, feeling the weight of their stares. He had come to this day with hopes of a brighter future for the children, but now those hopes hung by a thread. "Elias," a voice called out, cutting through the noise. It was Mr. Thompson, a respected member of the community. "How could you accept money from that source? Don't you care about the children's future?" Elias swallowed hard, his heart racing. "I thought I was doing what was best," he replied, trying to keep his voice steady. I wanted to provide a place for them to learn and grow. Provide a place? Mr. Thompson shook his head in disbelief. You've put us all at risk. This isn't just about you. As the crowd grew louder, Lila stood at the edge, her small frame trembling. She watched Elias, her eyes wide with confusion and hurt. Feeling betrayed, she turned away, seeking comfort in the nearby trees. Elias noticed her departure and felt a pang of regret. He had wanted to be a beacon of hope, not a source of pain. "Lila," he called, his voice softer now. He stepped away from the crowd, pushing through the murmurs and angry faces. "Wait!" She stopped but did not turn around. "Why did you do it, Elias? How could you take money from them?" The hurt in her voice cut deep. "I didn't think it would come to this," he confessed, stepping closer. "I just wanted to help you and the other kids. I thought the funding would make things easier. But it's not right." Lila turned to face him, tears brimming in her eyes. "You promised us a good school. You promised hope." Elias knelt down to her level, his heart aching. "I know I let you down. I thought I could make a difference. I thought it would honor Beatrice's memory." He hesitated, the weight of his grief heavy on his shoulders. "I see now that I was wrong." Lila wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "You need to fix this, Elias. You have to make it right." Elias took a deep breath, feeling the gravity of her words. "You're right. I can't let this continue. I will cancel the funding. I won't let anyone compromise our school for the sake of money." As he stood up, Clara's voice rang out from behind him. "Elias, you can't just walk away from this. You need to take responsibility for your actions." There was a fire in her eyes that Elias hadn't seen in a long time. "I am taking responsibility, Clara," Elias shot back, frustration bubbling over. "I never wanted to hurt anyone, especially the children. I thought I was doing what was best." "Best for whom?" Clara pressed, her tone sharp. "You need to think about the consequences of your choices. You can't just pretend everything will be fine if you take the easy way out." Elias felt her words pierce through his defenses. "Maybe I thought I could buy them a better future," he admitted, his voice softer now. "But I realize that integrity matters more than money. I will find another way." Lila, still standing close, watched the exchange with wide eyes. "What will you do?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'll reach out to the community," Elias replied, determination flooding his heart. "I'll find ethical funding sources. We can do this the right way, together." Clara's expression softened slightly. "It won't be easy, but if you're truly committed, I'll support you." Elias nodded, grateful for her willingness to stand by him. "Thank you, Clara. I need your support more than ever." In that moment, the chaos around them faded into the background. Elias felt a sense of clarity wash over him, and with it, a renewed commitment to the children and the school he had dreamed of building. It wouldn't be perfect, but it would be honest. He looked down at Lila, who was watching him with hope in her eyes. "We'll make this right, Lila," he promised. "We'll create a school that you can be proud of." And as he spoke those words, he felt a flicker of hope ignite within him once more. The days following Elias's decision to cancel the controversial funding were filled with mixed emotions in Hopevale. Some community members were angry, feeling betrayed by Elias's choices. They voiced their opinions loudly at the market, their words sharp and pointed like arrows. "Did you hear what he did?" a woman exclaimed to her friend, her eyes wide with disbelief. "He threw away our chance for help." "Maybe he thinks he can do better on his own," her friend replied, shaking her head. "But what will that mean for the kids?" In the midst of this turmoil, Elias felt the weight of their disappointment heavy on his shoulders. He walked through the town, the familiar faces now turned away from him. Yet, amidst the frowns and whispers, he found unexpected support. Lila approached him one afternoon, her small figure standing out among the adults. "Mr. Vance?" Lila said, her voice soft yet steady. "Yes, Lila," Elias replied, kneeling to meet her gaze. I don't think you did a bad thing, she said, her brown eyes reflecting a mixture of hope and sadness. You want what's best for us, right? Elias felt a warmth in his chest. I do, Lila, I really do. But some people don't see it that way. Lila nodded. They just want to be safe. I want to be safe too. But I think it's good you are trying to be honest. Her words struck a chord within him. He realized that even in the face of criticism, there were those who understood his intentions. Lila's support was a small light in a dim room. Later that day, Elias decided to visit Clara. He needed to talk to her about the situation and how they could work together for the sake of the children. As he approached her house, he noticed the garden was in full bloom, a sign of life and hope. Clara was kneeling, tending to the flowers when she looked up. Elias, she said, surprise flickering in her eyes. What brings you here? I wanted to talk, he said, stepping closer. About the school and what happened. Clara brushed dirt from her hands and stood, crossing her arms. What is there to say? You made a huge mistake. I know, he admitted, his voice low. But I want to make it right. I'm seeking new funding, something we can be proud of. Clara studied him for a moment, her expression softening. You're serious about this? Yes, he replied earnestly. I want to rebuild trust with the community. I want the children to have a chance without any shadows hanging over them. Then you need to show them you mean it, Clara said, her tone firm yet supportive. Actions speak louder than words. Elias nodded, feeling a spark of determination. I will, I promise. As the days passed, Elias worked tirelessly. He reached out to local businesses, nonprofits, and even friends from his past who had resources to share. Each conversation was a step toward rebuilding the trust he had lost. He found himself energized by Lila's unwavering belief in him and Clara's cautious encouragement. One afternoon, as he sat with Lila in the town square, he shared his plan. I've been talking to a local bakery. They want to donate some of their profits to the school. Lila's eyes lit up. Really? That's amazing. Maybe we can have a bake sale too. Yes, Elias laughed, feeling the weight on his heart lift a little. And we can invite everyone to help. It will show the town that we are all in this together. Lila beamed with excitement. I can't wait to tell the others. As they discussed the details, Elias found comfort in Lila's enthusiasm. It reminded him of Beatrice and how she used to light up when she had an idea. He was determined to create a bright future for these children, to honor his daughter's memory in a way that truly mattered. Meanwhile, Clara watched from a distance, her heart shifting. She saw Elias's commitment and felt a renewed sense of connection. Perhaps they could find a way to work together after all, not just for Lila, but for all the children who depended on them. Elias knew the road ahead would be challenging, but for the first time in a long while, he felt a sense of hope. With Lila's support and Clara's cautious optimism, he believed they could build a school that would stand as a beacon of light for the community of Hopevale. The sun rose over Hopevale, casting a warm glow on the newly refurbished school. The air was filled with excitement as the community gathered for the reopening ceremony. Elias Vance stood outside the school, taking a moment to breathe in the fresh morning air. He felt a sense of renewal wash over him, a feeling he had longed for since the turmoil of recent months. Today is a new beginning, he whispered to himself, a smile creeping onto his face. He looked around at the crowd of familiar faces, many of whom had come to support the school. There were parents, teachers, and community members, all united by a common purpose. As the ceremony began, Elias took the stage, his heart racing. He felt the weight of their hopes resting on his shoulders. Thank you all for coming today, he started, his voice steady. This school is more than just a building. It is a place for our children to learn, grow, and dream. The crowd responded with applause, and Elias could see Lila in the front row, her eyes sparkling with joy. She had become a beacon of hope for him, a reminder of why he had fought so hard to create this space. Her smile lit up the room, and he felt a surge of pride. "Lila, would you like to say a few words?" he asked, gesturing for her to join him on stage. Lila hesitated for a moment, her cheeks flushed. Okay," she said shyly. Stepping up to the microphone, she looked out at the audience. "I'm really happy to be here. This school feels like home. Thank you, Mr. Vance, for believing in us." The audience erupted in cheers, and Elias felt a lump in his throat. He knew that this moment was not just about him, it was about every child who needed a place to belong. After Lila spoke, the community members came together to show their support. They shared stories of their own journeys, of struggles and triumphs. The atmosphere was filled with a sense of unity and purpose. People exchanged ideas on how they could help the school thrive, offering time, resources, and skills. "Elias, you've really brought us together," one of the parents said, clapping him on the back. "We can make this work, together." Elias nodded, feeling grateful. "It's all of us working together that will make this school a success. We need to keep our focus on the children." As the day went on, Elias watched as the children explored their new classrooms, their laughter echoing through the halls. He saw Lila helping a younger child tie his shoelaces, her kindness shining through. Elias felt a sense of purpose wash over him. This was what he had envisioned, a nurturing environment where children could thrive. Later that afternoon, Elias sat with Clara on a bench outside the school. The tension between them had eased, and they both felt the weight of the past slowly lifting. "I didn't think you could pull this off," Clara admitted, her tone softer than it had been in the past. "I was worried about how you would handle everything." "I was worried too," Elias replied, his eyes reflecting the sincerity of his words. "But I had to do this for Beatrice and for all the kids. They deserve a chance." Clara sighed, looking out at the playground filled with children. "I see that now. You really care about them. I just hope you can keep this up." "I will," Elias promised. "I've learned the importance of honesty and integrity. I want to be a better man for them." As they spoke, Lila ran up to them, her face flushed with excitement. "Mr. Vance, we found a tree outside that's perfect for climbing. Can we make it a spot for reading?" Elias chuckled, his heart swelling with happiness. "Absolutely, Lila. Let's make it a special place for all of you." The day ended with a sense of accomplishment. Elias stood in the fading light, watching as the children played and laughed. He felt the weight of redemption finally lift from his shoulders. Hopevale was moving forward, united by the bonds they had formed through shared struggles and triumphs. Elias knew that the journey was just beginning, but he felt ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. He had found his purpose, and with it, a brighter future for everyone in Hopevale. Share this story if you believe that community and hope can transform even the toughest challenges. Leave a comment about a time when working together made a difference in your life, and subscribe for more inspiring tales like this one.